Hey guys, welcome. Trying to fix my hair here. I don't know what I'm doing. All right, it's pretty bad, but that's okay. We are live 110 at 10, um, and going live. Trying to talk to you guys this morning, bringing you a little devotional, like we have been. Uh, Jacob, I'm glad to see you joined. Kathy, welcome. Um, so glad to see you guys on Instagram this morning. It's a little different. I'm at home currently still, and I'm going to be getting ready for the Villa Live tonight. I know my camera. I'm trying to adjust it all here, but um, getting ready to prepare and finish up the stuff that I need to for Villa Live tonight. And so excited about that. Excited what that's going to look like in the book of Haggai. Um, and so just reading a little bit more this morning, trying to finish up the points there, and some of these minor prophets. It's interesting to study and pull from them and see it's going on. So, but no, I'm really glad the Whitneys. I see all of them are on. I'm gonna go ahead and wave at them. Let's just get some waves in there, and then also Anna. Glad to see her join. She is super momming this morning, watching all the kids. Well, all the kids, the two kids. It seems like all the kids. It seems like there's like 14 of them, because we have a Timothy. And so Timothy's out there, being himself, and she's doing that, and then also paying attention and saying hi to you guys. So, thinking the beard's gonna have to go today. Starting to get annoyed by it. I'm not a beard guy, so I think that's gonna have to leave maybe by tonight. So we'll see. If not, very soon, because it's starting to be of concern. But this morning, looking at the scripture, looking at the devotion, trying to refresh my brain here. Galatians chapter 2, I believe. I have it pulled up here. Yeah, Galatians chapter 2. Christian lives. And so just kind of discussing this. I'm going to reset. Christian lives should be um, a life of contradictions. And the big word for the day be conundrum. Our lives should be a conundrum. When people look at our lives, when people look at what's going on, they should not be able to make sense of it. It should be odd and be strange. And that's what we see in Scripture. When we look at something like Galatians 2, verse 20, it starts off with, I have been crucified with Christ. It is no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me. I'm no longer alive. I have been crucified, but yet I live. Again, the beginning of the Christian life is a contradiction. It combats against one another. Everything that we would see in our lives, like to be able to. I'm trying to. My words are jumbled right now, but to be able to come to Christ, to actually become alive, we must die to ourselves. We must die to our sin so that we can become alive. It's a contradiction at the very beginning. And it should be like that when we see things like, blessed are those who hunger, they shall be filled. When you're hungry, you be filled. When you're the weakest, you will be the strongest. And so we see these contradictions all the time, and we see that this is what Scripture says that we should do. Those of us, when we find in our lives that we think that we are strong, we are actually the weakest. When we think that we can handle situations, it's usually when we fail. I want to read the list from the book. I know we've talked about the book and things of that nature, but this is what it says. The Christian saves his own life by losing it, and he's in danger of losing it by trying to save it. It's a contradiction there. It is strange, but we as Christians, are strongest when we are weakest, and weakest when we are thinking we are strongest. When we get down on our knees because we are weak, we are actually strong. The strength that it shows, the strength that it takes to get down on the knees when we are weak. It says we are in least danger when we are fearful and trusting God, and in the most danger when we think we don't need Him. We are most sinless when we feel the most sinful. Now think about this. We are the most sinless when we think we are the most sinful, and yet we are the most sinful when we think we are the most sinless. When we understand how much our lives are in conflict with God, when we realize how much sin is in our lives, we are actually closer to being free of sin. But when we try to tell ourselves that we have no sin, or that we're okay, or that we have nothing to work on, or that there's nothing else that we need to change, that is when we're actually believing the most sin. That's where we're at. That's when we're in most danger of contradicting God. And so our lives are this. And so the prayer would be that we live lives like this. And here's, I think, the reason why is because we do not need to be trusting in ourselves. We do not need to be trusting in our own strength. We do not need to be trusting in our own knowledge. We do not need to be trusting in our own abilities. What we need to be doing is trusting in Him. And when we do that, when we are able to move our lives around and move our focus around to focusing on Him and not us, is when we start living life. And that's, again, it's a contradiction. When we take ourselves out, when we stop focusing on ourselves and we focus on Him, we start living lives that are the best for us. We start living lives that are the most full for us, that are the most important for us. Like we gain so much by putting Him first. And it seems like a contradiction, and it should. It should seem odd. It should seem different, because that's what Christ did. Christ loved us, so He came and died for us. He was God, yet humbled Himself as a man. The example that we are given of contradictions, the example that we are given of the life that we are supposed to live, is living contradictingly, I don't know how to say that, to the world, to ourselves. We should be so desiring to live for God and to focus on Him that our own self would look like we hate it. You know, when Scripture says that, that following God is going to split families, is that it is going to do all of these processes, like problems. It's going to arise all of these issues. It's because most people don't live in a life that's focused on God. And so when someone does, it creates challenges. It creates problems. And even in our own lives, when we are doing this, when we are focused on God, there are going to be times in our own life that we are going to struggle, because we're going to have to tell ourselves no to tell Him yes. But in so doing, what we don't understand all the time and what we don't get all the time is that in so doing, we are actually making our lives better. And that's what we need to make sure we understand, is that we don't live this life that we have anymore. As Christians, we do not live for ourselves, but that we live for Him. And when we see this, and when we see the truth of this in Scripture, what we see is that if we do that, if we live a life that's completely focused on God, with Him first, we will have the best life that we can have. That doesn't mean that everything gets done the way we want it to. That doesn't mean that we earn all of the prizes. That doesn't mean that we live a life of ease and comfort. But we live the life that is best for us. And that is important. That is so hard to see sometimes. But the reason that's the case, and the reason that it happens that way, is because we end up trusting the only one that can actually do it anyway. We trust the only one that can actually give us the life that we want. Left on my own, and I could tell you stories after stories, when I followed what I thought I wanted, when I got to that point of thinking I achieved what I want. Like, so I had a goal and I had a mindset and I said, this is what I want for my life. This is what I think is best. This is what's going to make me the happiest. This is what's going to fulfill me. And I drove towards it. I gave it everything I had. When I got there, I realized it wasn't what I wanted. Because it didn't end up giving me what I needed it to give me. But the times that I have said, God, I know and trust that you will give me a better life. So I will follow you, even if that means giving up something I think I want. Because I know when you get me to the end, what you have for me is better than what I can come up with my own. It's humbling. It's a saying, I don't understand. I'm not intelligent enough to pick my own battle, to pick my own path. I'm not knowledgeable enough to choose my own life. But in so choosing that and so making that decision, I am actually smarter than I've ever been. Because I'm trusting the only one that can actually do it. Again, I understand that it's contradicting, but it's supposed to be. When I trust God to do it, one, I know that He will. But two, when I humble myself and say, God, I have no idea what to do, I'm coming to you for help. That is the ultimate of knowing what to do. And so it's a very important thing. And that's the challenge this morning. I don't want to get confusing, but the challenge this morning is to live a life of contradictions in the sense of constantly giving your life over to Christ, constantly doing what He wants you to do, constantly being aware of the problems in your life, knowing what's going on. It is when you are focused so much, and the sin one got me this morning when I was studying. Is when I think that I am the most sinful, I'm actually kind of closer to being sinless. When I think I am sinless, I'm way further down the road of being sinful. So this morning, what I want to challenge you with, when you look at a verse like this, is to give your life to Christ. Freely give it to Him, knowing, having full hope, full trust, full truth that He is going to give you a life better than you could ever choose for yourself. So maybe that is, and again, it's different in everything. Maybe that's this job that you think you want, or this school that you think you want, or this girl or guy that you think you want, or there's this item that you think you want to get, or there's this thing that you want to chase after. If God says don't, and your brain and everything in you is saying, no, go after this, this is what's going to please you most, trust God. Know that He is going to give you, and it might hurt, but sometimes the times that we are most hurt is when we are most healed. And again, it's a contradiction, and I know that. But that's the way Scripture says to live, and that's the way that Christ wants us to live. Die to ourselves so we can live in Him. And that life that He has for us is so much better than the life that we can have for ourselves. I love you guys. I'm going to continue this morning finishing up getting ready for the lesson tonight in Haggai, or Haggai, however you say it. I might just pick one and go with it. But I'm so glad you guys were able to join. I know most come back and watch this later. Live a life of contradictions. It's okay to do that because we should be doing it. It shouldn't make sense. The world should look at it and go, that doesn't make sense. You love this thing. Why aren't you searching after that? Well, because God tells me that that's not the thing I should be searching after right now. And I know He's going to give me something better. That doesn't make sense. I know it doesn't, but I know it. And I have trust and faith. So I love you guys. I will talk to you later. If you need anything, please reach out. Bye, guys.